Greetings, everyone. Today we're here. We're going to talk a little bit more about that Daniel Boone combat load we did in the previous video. First of all, I want to thank everyone who watched that video. As of right now, that video has 40,000 views, which is the most I've ever had on a video to this date. And I'm thankful for every single one of you that watched that video. So this is going to be a sequel to that video, and I've kind of debated on what to name it. I originally was going to name it Testing the Daniel Boone Combat Load Again, but then I thought, well, people might pass over it and say, hey, I've already seen that. And then I thought about Testing Daniel Boone Combat Load Part 2, and I don't know if that'll work either. YouTube is a weird thing where one video gets 20,000 views and one gets 200 views, and they got similar titles and they're discussing similar subject matter. So I'm not really sure how all that works. I know based on my subscriber list, when you're a content creator, it actually shows you what your subscribers are also subscribed to, not individually, but kind of as a collective. And I know a lot of you guys watch Hootie Hoo, and I watch Hootie Hoo too, and he's expressed similar problems in some of his videos where it's like, man, you never know what's gonna get the views and what's not. But anyway, I think I'm gonna title this video. I think I know what I'm gonna title it. I even had one that was gonna be kind of like clickbaity, where I would be like, oh, you guys are wrong or something like that, but I'm not going to do that. But what we're going to do today is we're going to compare two very similar types of combat loads from the late 18th, early 19th century. And you'll know what they are when you read the title, because I know what the title is going to be now. I'm not going to tell you though, but you'll know, because by the time you're watching this, it'll have a title. Anyway, here's what I want to talk about, okay? I had a lot of comments on that Daniel Boone video, and I'm thankful for every single comment. But a couple things I want to address, all right? First of all, there were a couple of people who said, you should have shot against a big piece of plywood or a big piece of paper or something like that, so they could, we could see where all the pellets went. That is a very good idea, right? A very good point. However, I don't care about the misses. And I don't mean that in any way towards you guys. I think that's a great idea. If any of you guys have your own channel, that would be a good thing to do. Personally, all right, I'm only interested in the hits. If I'm discussing the effectiveness of a combat load, then I want to see where it hits. Now, if we were talking about a battle, for example, the Battle of Monmouth, right, where George Washington's Continental Army faced off against Henry Clinton's British Army, and we know that guys are stacked up in formation and things like that, that would be a very good way to test the effectiveness of that load against something like that. But we know Daniel Boone wasn't fighting against soldiers in formation. He was fighting against Indians. He was fighting against white loyalists who were frontiersmen, much like himself. And they weren't standing in formations like that. So I'm really more concerned about how that load impacted an individual target, not a formation. But that is a good idea. I don't want you guys to think I'm trying to be disrespectful to you at all. One little caveat on that. Most of you probably don't know, I'm a war veteran. I was an infantryman. I was a paratrooper. I did a lot of combat missions, all right, like over 100. And let me just say, I am thankful that the misses don't count. What's that old saying about horseshoes and hand grenades? I'm just not concerned with the misses, okay? So I wanted to address that. Good idea, okay? Good idea. Thankful for the suggestion. Please keep the suggestions coming, all right? I'm not knocking your suggestion. I'm just saying it doesn't really help me with what I'm trying to do here. Another thing that I had, and people commented on this a lot. Okay, this was probably the #1 comment. Is people would say, "Oh, that's a buck and ball load." All right. Now, everybody pause a minute. Okay. I do not want you to take this the wrong way. Please, 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 please do not take this as an insult. Okay. I am thankful that so many of you know what a buck and ball load is. I mean that. I am happy to have so many people tell me, hey, that's a buck and ball load. All right. And here's the deal. Okay. You are right. You are correct. All right. When I was reading this biography or this interview with Nathan Boone about his father, and I read the part about how Daniel Boone loaded his fowling gun, the very first thing that popped in my head was that is a buck and ball load. That's what I said. That's a buck and ball load. Okay. But here's the deal. Okay. As a responsible historian, which is what I am, I'm a professional historian. I'm not a reenactor. I'm not a cosplayer. I'm not one of those rendezvous guys. Don't get me wrong. I love all that stuff. Please invite me to a rendezvous. Okay. But it's not what I do for a living. Okay. I write history that will be reviewed and criticized by other historians. All right. And what was described in that video and what Daniel Boone's son described is not accurately a buck and ball load. Okay. Now, you and I, if everybody that commented, hey, that's a buck and ball load, again, that I'm excited that you know that, and I agree with you. Okay. But I'm going to put a picture right here of what a buck and ball load looks like from the late 18th, early 19th century. Okay, a buck and ball load is a musket ball, which is appropriate to the caliber of the gun being used. All right, and a few, meaning 2 or 3 buckshot pellets. All right, I'll roll a video. I'm going to roll some footage in of what that looks like in my hand. Okay, you got 3 pellets, the buck, and 1 musket ball, the ball. Okay. Now I'm going to roll in footage of what this Daniel Boone load looks like, which is 16 to 18 buckshot and 3 or 4 rifle balls, not musket balls. So they're still going to be undersized for that fowling gun, but they are bigger, right? So you can see what that looks like, okay? Now anybody who looks at these two things will say, hey, that's not the same thing. That's different. There's a lot more lead in this one, okay? Now, again, you're not wrong by saying, hey, it's a buck and ball load. It's the same idea. It's the same principle behind it, okay, that we're going to maximize our chance at a hit by increasing the shot load, all right? But here's the problem, okay? If I say Daniel Boone used a buck and ball load, and some person who's very interested in history but maybe doesn't know, have never heard of a buck and ball load, and they look it up, they're going to find the Army recommended buck and ball load, which is 3 pellets of buckshot and 1 musket ball. And that would be an inaccurate representation of Daniel Boone. All right. Now, furthermore, let me say this, because this will give you a little bit of insight onto what we deal with as historians. Okay. If I were to ask any of you guys, I said, hey, what'd you do this morning? You're probably going to say, oh, I went to the bank, or I went to the post office, or something like that. You're going to think about, okay, what did I do this morning? What did I do, right? Oh, I went to the grocery store, okay? You're not going to most likely say, oh, I woke up, I brushed my teeth, I used the bathroom. You're not going to say that, okay? Because that's something that's very normal, something you do every day, something that everybody does. And so you're not gonna say those normal things. All right. Now, okay, why does that matter? All right. Daniel Boone was a military officer, right? We think of him as a frontiersman and a pioneer, and he was those things, but he was legitimately a military officer. He was Colonel Daniel Boone, all right? His son, Nathan Boone, who's telling Lyman Draper this story about his father, he was also a military officer, all right? These men lived in a time period where the buck and ball cartridge was very popular. George Washington loved buck and ball, all right? So, and buck and ball was around even up to the Civil War. So these men, Daniel Boone and Nathan Boone, they knew what a buck and ball load was. That would not have surprised them to hear that somebody used a buck and ball load. Okay, they know about the buck and ball load. So they would not have said, Nathan Boone would not have said, my father used, 3 or 4 rifle balls and 15 to 18 buckshot. He wouldn't have said that if this was a common buck and ball load. He would have said, oh yeah, my father used a buck and ball load, right? So the fact that he took the time to describe it means that it was abnormal. It wasn't commonly used, okay? So again, I don't mean any disrespect to anyone who said, hey, that's a buck and ball load. You're right, I agree with you, okay? But it's not the typical buck and ball load that we think of, all right? Now, another suggestion that I had a lot was, hey, you should have put the rifle balls on top of the pellets instead of underneath the pellets, all right? And that is 100% true. I should have done that, all right? The reason I didn't is because I don't have any buckshot pellets, all right? When I was gonna make that video, I went and bought a box of buckshot, which comes in a box of 5, and I cut them open. I'm actually gonna roll in some video to show you that. I cut the shells open and dump the pellets out. Well, I only had a couple of shots worth because 5 shells, 9 pellets each, you get the point, okay? So I didn't have enough bullets to do that. But if I wanted to accurately test it, I should have done that too. I should have done every variable. So that's actually what we're going to do today. We're going to test it the other way, okay? But we're also going to test the buck and ball load. So now the title of the video makes sense. Buck and ball load versus Daniel Boone's combat load. So yes, they are both technically buck and ball loads, but one is a more accurate representation of what of your typical buck and ball load, and one's that load that's sort of special to Daniel Boone. So let's try them both out and see what's better. All right, guys, so we've got our buck and ball load ready. 3 pellets of buckshot and 1 .60 caliber musket ball. All right, about 30 yards away, same as last time, same powder charge. Everything's the same except for we're only sending 4 rounds of lead downrange. All right, we got a dead Shawnee warrior down there. Let's go check it out. All right, guys, we got 3 hits on the target. I'm pretty sure this is that musket ball. That's a pretty big hole. And then we got a impact here and an impact here. So out of our 4 pellets, 3 of them are on target. So I would say the buck and ball load was actually pretty effective. That musket ball hit exactly where I was aiming, which is impressive. It's going to be tough to beat that. I mean, that's a dead guy right there. So, but let's go load up that Daniel Boone load the way you guys suggested with the larger balls on top. All right, guys, we got our Daniel Boone load ready to go. We've got 15 buckshot pellets and 3.49 caliber rifle balls. The rifle rounds are on top of the pellets. Everything's undersized for bore, but we got a lot more lead going down range. Let's see how it works. That sounded very deadly. It also didn't feel too good on my shoulder. Let's go check it out. All right, guys, I am very surprised and I guess you could say underwhelmed by the results. it looks like to me there are 2 hits on the target. All right, this is obviously one of those rifle balls. It's pretty big. And then right here is a buckshot pellet, I guess. It doesn't even seem to have done as much damage as it did on our other target. But out of all that lead, 18 pieces of lead, we only have 2 hits on target, which is way worse than last time. Also, in case you guys are wondering, there's a mark right here. That is a bullet hole through this target. This target's AR 500 steel. Most of the shooting I do is actually high-powered, center fire rifles. Well, I say high-powered, anything from an AR-15 up to a Magnum caliber hunting rifle. But somebody shot that hole through this target. I don't know who it was. I don't know what kind of bullet they were using. I mean, it could have been me, and it could have been that was just like a weak spot in the target somehow. But that bullet hole is always there. So that thing is misleading sometimes when you're trying to look at target. But yeah, we only got 2. It looks like one of the rifle balls and one of the buckshot. Now, this guy's as equally as dead as the other guy. I think every target we've shot with this load from the 2 videos is dead. But that's pretty underwhelming compared to the results we got last time. I think last time we had 10 on target when I loaded it the other way. So either you guys are very wrong or things just didn't work out this way. One thing that's interesting, I want you to look right here. So this is a piece of plywood I use for shooting zeroing rifles and stuff like that. I'll staple targets up there or tape them up there or whatever. You can see that there's a lot of bullet holes here, a lot of bullet holes here, a lot of bullet holes here. That's because, I'll put targets up there and zero them, and, you shoot a 3-round group. It might be off a couple inches, so you move it over and you get it zeroed. So there's a lot of bullet holes in those 3 areas, but there's no bullet holes anywhere else on this plywood because my rifles are pretty close when I get ready to shoot them. However, this little hole wasn't there before, and I would never have shot there because that's where my post is that holds this thing on. So I think that's one of those buckshot pellets that we just shot. All right, it's crazy because it sounded so, it sounded like metal just clanging. I thought there was all kind of pellets hitting that thing. And they could have been hitting some of the posts and stuff too. But probably what happened, maybe, was this thing bounced a little bit when I shot it. But that guy's dead. He's a dead guy. But I think if it was me, I would load it the way we did last time, where I put the balls on the bottom. That seemed to actually do a lot better. Of course, we would have to test this over and over and over and over and over again to get truly accurate results, and I don't have the resources to do that. But anyway, pretty interesting test there. All right, guys. Hey, y'all see Gigi? Hey, Gigi. That's my Daniel Boone dog. That's my Brindle Mountain Cur that I would hunt hunt bears and fight Indians with if I was Daniel Boone. But that's just my dog. She's a good dog. She's a squirrel dog. And she's my buddy. She goes with me everywhere I go. So that's why she's down here. But anyway, what did we learn today? Did we learn, what bullets are better? What order of stacking bullets is better? Is any of this better than the buck and ball load? I can't answer that for you. You answer that for yourself. Like I said, you would have to have really a lot of tests if you really want to be more conclusive. What I really want to do was, 1, have fun, 2, address some of you guys' comments, and get my hands dirty. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. The main thing I learned is I don't want to be shot by a musket. I don't care how it's loaded. All right. None of that looks fun to me. Those are big pieces of lead going down range. But I appreciate you guys watching. Hey, one more thing I wanted to talk about. You guys see the hat I'm wearing? It's pretty cool. It's actually a reference to my daughter's softball team. My daughter's a softball player. But I wear, on this video, when I'm not in my office at work, usually I'm wearing a hat. And partly because my hair is getting thin because I'm in my 40s and it ain't as thick as it used to be. But I like to wear hats anyway. Hats are what I wear. All right. Most of the hats that I have worn on this channel, not all of them, but most of them, have actually been made by my friends. I've got a couple different friends that, you know, make hats and t-shirts and things like that. This particular hat was made by a very good friend of mine, and he has a company called Shirley and Me Crafts, and he makes hats and stuff like that, but he also makes these really amazing decorations out of wood. I've seen him do baseball stadiums, football stadiums. He's made things for, you know, if you got a kid that's an athlete and you want something special done with your jersey number or something like that, he makes all kind of stuff. And these things are amazing works of art. And so if any of you guys are interested in that, he didn't ask me to do this or pay me to do this or anything. This is completely out of the blue, other than I asked him if he wouldn't mind if I mentioned him. But he made this hat for me, and if you guys are ever interested in any of this kind of stuff that he does, look him up, Shirley and Me Crafts. I don't think you'll be disappointed. But anyway, guys, I want to thank you for watching this. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And stay tuned, because we're going to be shooting more here very quickly.